Okay, so next on the topic or the list of topics that I want to cover is that it seems that there's just more and more layers of government bureaucracy that's getting in our way of creating more rental housing. It's just asinine, some of the policies that they're suggesting and actually putting in place, because everywhere we turn, there's more compliance and more paperwork that we're having to fill out on top of a ballooning public sector that's going to be needed to administrate it all. So to hit that point home, we only need to look at the new Renters' Bill of Rights that Mr. Trudeau proposed himself, which is some are calling a actual solution in search of a problem. And what his new bill proposes is that landlords disclose a clear history of rental pricing, as well as a nationwide standard lease agreement and a requirement for landlords to report tenants' rental history to the credit bureaus. Now, this bill is just another in a long list of insanely ridiculous ideas that I don't know, I can't help but wonder where this stuff comes from. So, documenting past rent prices is going to do nothing to alleviate rent inflation, or it's not going to give tenants any additional power, especially when vacancy rates across the country are at record lows. So, then you have to consider a national lease agreement, which makes no sense considering that tenancy laws are actually provincial, and all of which have standard tenancy policy and agreements already in place. And then in addition to that, we're going to actually ask mom and pop type rental housing providers who make up more than 50% of the rental market to report tenant payment history directly to the credit bureaus. I mean, this is a bureaucracy nightmare that I think is going to create and grind even more issues to a halt. So, speaking of bureaucracy nightmares, it was just reported that the federal government's underutilized housing tax has been a total flop. And of course, that's based on the intention that they would generate $200 million in taxes. But so far, they've only collected about $50 million, and it's cost the CRA about $60 million to administer it. And it's actually just more examples of government overreach, which has actually led to many rental housing providers spending somewhere between $500 and $1,000 in accounting fees just to remain compliant, and it all comes for no reason. So on top of accounting for the now flat underutilized housing tax, if you're a resident of BC, you have to file an annual empty home tax declaration, a BC speculation tax declaration, a federal government, of course, underutilized housing tax declaration, maybe. And if you're a landlord, a bare trust declaration. Oh no, wait, they scrapped that idea too. More bloated administration. So when we look at the productivity issues, we actually don't need to look any further, in my opinion, than the public sector, that administration, those roles that continue to balloon. And I don't know what else to say about it. That seems to be what it is. We've talked about it so many times on this show, is that manufacturing has trended down in Canada. Research and development is almost non-existent. Import, exports are down. We're not tapping into the commodities that the world needs. So when the Bank of Canada's Carolyn Rogers said that when it comes to our productivity, in case of emergency, break glass, and then she added, it's time to break the glass, she was sending a pretty strong message to our government. Here's the thing. Our productivity in the business sector has actually seen an average decline of about 0.3% over the past 5 years. And the US, on the other side, has managed a 1.7% gain. So as a result, our GDP per capita has actually dropped for 6 consecutive quarters and is now no higher than it was back in 2017. And that's literally after keeping pace with the US on the same measure for the past 25 years. So what's happened is Canada's actually fallen way behind, and that's happening since 2015. And from that, I guess we can come to our own conclusions. But ultimately, we patiently need to keep moving forward. I mean, let's face it, the headwinds of real estate investing are strong, And there's no doubt about that. But the good news is that there are strategies that do work. And real estate remains a store of value that will keep us ahead of the game. So we change our strategy, we kind of face the headwinds, and we keep moving forward, stay connected to the data one step at a time, regardless of some of these crazy policies that seem to be unfolding. Stay tuned in to Rein It In. Hang out at the REIN meetings. We're going to see you there. If you like what you learned here, go to the description below and subscribe for our free Insiders newsletter, where you can also stay up to date for our upcoming events and our courses.